Well, Alito, I don't want my channel to become political, but there are a few thoughts that I have regarding ICE. I'm very much on the fence um, regarding ICE and immigration. I've done the immigration dance, and it's a very inefficient uh, process. Uh, you have to wait in line. And that's just, it is what it is. Now, I want to play both sides of the fence here. ICE ICE was formed in around 2003. It wasn't created out of nothing. There was another immigration department. I can't remember what it was called. Nationalization, something national. Anyway, after 9/11, Homeland Security was created, and a department was kind of liquidated and morphed into what is now ICE. It was Immigration, Customs, and what is what does ICE stand for? Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement, something like that. Yeah, ICE. Anyway, it was formed in 2003, so it's been around for 23 years or so, and it's kind of crazy. Again, I don't want the channel ever to become political. I really don't. Every so often I will comment on something political because I think politics are fun, but politics to me are kind of it's like cereal. It's like you have your cornflakes and added milk. Do you eat them now, crunchy, or do you want them to get soggy? Whatever flavor you like, Now, I'll play both sides of the fence. We often demonize certain things depending on who's in office. ICE has been around for 20 years, since the Bush Jr. Administration, 2001, 2002. When 9/11 happened in 2001, ICE was formed about 2 years later, after everything was sort of reorganized and Homeland Security was created. So it's been around that long, and recently up in Minnesota, which seems to be the hot spot of the country right now, we've had two deaths, both ICE agents shooting and killing protesters. And right or wrong, protest all you want. Like I always said, be smart about what you do. You start doing stupid stuff and put your hands on law enforcement, stupid stuff is going to happen to you. You may be right in your cause. Fight that in the courts, fight that in the ballot box, but don't fight that on the street with a cop, because you're going to lose that battle. Besides that, though, two people have been shot and killed by ICE, and it seems like the country just is an uproar. We're just losing our minds over it. And I wonder how many people actually know that in the past 23 years ICE has been around, about 270 plus people have died at the hands of ICE. And yet you have not heard no protests up until now, because the last two administrations that were in charge of the country with ICE in existence were Democrats, Obama and Biden. And sometimes we often, I think the news media also is at blame for that also, because the news media, once upon a time, their primary goal was to tell the news. What happened here, what happened there, fire there, tornado there, this person, whatever. Tell the news. And somewhere over our time, news has morphed into primary objective, make money, secondary objective, news. And the way you make money on your first primary objective is to get views, get viewership, get people to watch your channel. And so, what is the best thing that sells news? Drama, bad. You turn on news, it's always bad stuff. Drama and bad stuff. So it's kind of like, nowadays you see news affiliates, news stations choosing political sides, and they will tell the same story you know, and depending on what side they choose, it'd be a different spin and a different angle of that story, justifying one way or the other. So, 2 people have died. We're in an uproar, but you really don't hear much uproar over the 270 who've died in the past. So it's kind of strange, you know, that you know, and some people call these martyrs, you know, these are martyrs. That's the worst way to get martyred. Like I said, if 270 plus have died, and we don't know their names, let's get a year or 2 under our belt, and we won't know your name either. I mean, it's just kind of that thing. But immigration, there is, it's an interesting thing in America. Like I said, I've done a K-1 visa for someone, and I know someone who went through the entire legally coming to the States, legally getting a 3-year green card, legally getting a 10-year green card, legally getting citizenship, and it is a process. That person has recently sponsored a family member to come to the States, and it is a 17-year wait to get into America. And in between there, you got to keep yourself clean, straight. Unfortunately, that person who was sponsored to come to America over in their home country broke a law, and now the immigration has dropped them. Yeah, if you break a law while you're on the waiting list, you can be denied on the spot and not even get an interview to come to America. Same thing if you have a green card. If you're in America with a green card, you do a felony. That is when I was doing it. Last I remember when I was doing it, you have a green card, 3-year or 10-year before you become a citizen, and you commit a felony or a really big crime. That is enough to yank that green card away, and you get deported. Now I've heard there's 2 different ways to kind of look at immigration. You have those who came here illegally. I'll try to break it to make sense. There's those who come here illegally and those who come here legally. And more often, if you're from Asia, Africa, Europe, Australia, you know, any of those countries, you have no choice really but to come here legally. To hop on that airplane to come to America from Australia, from any country in Africa, Europe, Asia, you have to get a visa, permission to come to the States, have your passport, and hop on that plane and fly over here legally. And then you have an obligation, depending on how long your green card is, you know, how your visa is, how long is it, you know, duration. And so there is a kind of divide that most, I would say most white Americans you see on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and stuff, they see immigration as just a brown body, brown skin situation. And it's not. There's a lot of immigrants who came here legally, overstayed their visa, and they come here legally as in they come on a tourist visa, came here on a work visa, came here on a student visa. And for what, you know, I personally know people who come here on a student visa. They get a little work permit, they start working, making money. Because when you come here on a student visa, more often than not, you can't apply for loans and stuff because you have 0 credit history and no social security number, so you can't just go and apply for loans. So one of the rules is when you come on a student visa is you have to pay your way. Again, I know someone who did that, and they paid cash per semester. They worked their butts off and paid cash per semester because there was no getting a loan. You don't come from, you don't come from Kenya to America and then apply for a loan on a student visa. And I know quite a few who come here on a student visa, got lucrative little side hustles, became good jobs, good money, and realized, man, what's the point of going, finishing school? Because a lot of times these little jobs, hell, nail techs, nail salons, you see that a lot, nail salons. The money they make at a nail salon on a week or a month outweighs any job you would get from education, from university. unless you go into like engineering or some really physics, some kind of really weird high-end doctor, high-end type job. So there are a lot over here that are from across the ocean, Pacific or Atlantic, who came here legally, overstayed visa, stayed put, and some got married and went to the back door. Getting married in America to a U.S. citizen is like the back door into legalization. But I do personally know those here that have, they're here illegally, and it is what it is. You know, they're working their butts off, and they're decent people, and that is what it is. And I know their gripe is it's not fair that you have people south of the border, north of the border, who can simply walk across the border and plop down and bypass the entire immigration system altogether. And so I understand that situation kind of, you know, if I was coming from, you know, Europe, you know, or Africa or whatever, I would have no choice but to come here legally. And then my choice to either renew a visa or break the visa is a choice versus me just coming from Mexico or coming up from Canada. I simply walk across the border and I'm here. And so yeah, I understand that there's kind of a rift and kind of a lack of knowledge of most Americans who are seeing this only as a Mexico, you know, south of the border situation, when it's really not 100% all that. It's yeah, so our immigration system is kind of broken. But yeah, I mean, here's also something you got to think about. I mean, we have immigration law, we have laws, and depending on who's, you know, depending on the president of the day, the flavor of the day, we have a choice to enforce that law or not enforce the law. Throughout the president's histories, different presidents have enforced it differently. You know, we're demonizing Trump right now the way he's enforcing it, and I think the last I heard, you know, these numbers change daily. I think he's deported under 1 million. I think the deportation is around 600 something thousand. And from what I'm gathering, it's not a mass deportation as of right now. It's more, and the media doesn't won't tell this. You have to go dig in you have to go and look, read, and find these things. He's kind of more targeting gang members. He's the first president, I believe, in history who has labeled the cartels as terrorist groups, terrorist organizations. So these cartel members that are over here in America, they have a priority when it comes to finding where they're at and then arresting them in deportation or whatever. And then those who are illegally, just mind their business working, they're kind of got caught in the net along with them sometimes. Secondary priority. You know, and it's kind of crazy. You know, there's protests everywhere. But again, I don't want to get political. When Obama was president, he has over almost 3 million deported. You know, I had a friend of mine that had my job, worked in the kitchen, and I think his mom was from Colombia, I think. And he came over here, like he was probably, he says he don't remember, but from what he remembered, he came over when he was like a wee baby, like 4 or 5 years old type wee baby. And since I had a little bit of experience in immigration, I was pulling all the paperwork and all the stuff he had to file and everything. Obama had given a deadline of when you had to have things filed and in the system, or you risk deportation. And Obama went one step further by actually making it illegal for employees to hire someone illegal. And unfortunately, all that paperwork wasn't filed in time. And once that deadline happened, he immediately was fired, and that was it. Now, what made things sort of sad for him, and I really felt bad for him, you know, he's like, you know, I grew up in America. He said, I don't speak Spanish. I've never been to Colombia. I have no idea, you know, to deport me to Colombia. I have no idea how to live in Colombia. I grew up in America. You know, I understand some Spanish. I don't even speak Spanish. You know, he said. So it's kind of it's one of those situations where you can't just do a dragnet and say, okay, you had no paperwork being here. And but yeah, Obama, he, almost 3 million were deported, and that's just kind of different the way Trump's doing it. Now Trump is a little more heavy-handed, but also, if I get this right, I could be 100% be wrong. The fact that Trump is actually going after active cartel members, drug members, gang members, the heavy-handedness of ICE presence and local law enforcement is a larger presence. They're not just, you know, dragnetting people. They're going after a specific group of people. So yeah, it's just, of course, protesters get involved, and during Obama there was a protest. There were many protests. I do remember the protest, and in fact, the whole photo about the kids in cages happened during the Obama administration. And it wasn't bad. It was a thing where you don't want adults with children who you don't know if those children are really belong to the adults in closed walls alone. So you put the population in chain link fence rooms where you can see through it. You know, it wasn't, you know, they make it sound like you're elected. They're in a dog kennel or something. You know, they were just chain link walls. So there's nothing to hide. You can't do nothing to the kids. You kind of, it took the criminal element out of the situation, because now the guards could see what is going on. And at the same time, during Obama, Biden not so much, but Obama and even Trump, it's kind of a fast pace. You're in. It's not like you go in this chain link fence house and you're there for months. You know, you go in, you get processed, find out what country you're from, blah blah blah. You find out if there is a warrant for your arrest in that country, because I would have done that if I lived in El Salvador, and they're looking to arrest me because I did something. Yeah, I'm gonna jump borders, man. Why not? You know, especially when the borders are that porous. So yeah, once they find out there's a warrant for the arrest in Honduras or something, then they will deport them right back to law enforcement in Honduras. So it seems chaotic, but even during Obama, it seemed chaotic. It seemed like they're just mass deporting, but there was a rhyme and reason and everything. And unfortunately, my friend, none of the paperwork was filed on time, and it was done. He lost his job, and we followed each other for a while on Facebook and stuff, and then after a while he kind of stopped posting. As far as I know, he's still here in the States. But yeah, he got a nice job, nice company he worked for, and that all went down the tube because of Obama's laws. So make it illegal to hire someone illegal. So, but yeah, it's just it also is crazy is we have immigration law. If I was to cross into Mexico illegally, that's 2 years in jail. And Mexico will enforce that. If I was to cross Mexico illegally carrying a firearm, whoo, that is prison time. There's a Marine right now. I think my brain's trying to say he's still in prison, but he I can't remember what state, California, New Mexico, Arizona. My brain's trying to say California. But anyway, he had a firearm on him, and he was on a road, and I guess he got lost. And once you go to these border crossings, once you're on that crossing, you're kind of stuck in this lane until you get across through the American checkpoint onto the Mexican checkpoint. And he told the American checkpoint, "Hey, I don't want to go to Mexico. I just want to make a U-turn." And for whatever situation, they sent him on down to the Mexican side to do the U-turn. Well, on the Mexican side, they went ahead and pulled him and like always, searched the vehicle. They searched him coming, searched him going. Found a firearm on him, and I believe he got 15 years in Mexican prison. And so I know his family has had petitioned. I can't remember, that time it was Obama. or yeah, I think it was Obama. But petitioned the administration to, hey, get my son out of prison. He wasn't there trying to cross illegally. He was just trying to make a U-turn. I don't know whatever happened to it. I haven't. That's the other thing about news cycles. Once the news story sort of gets out of popularity, news will drop it for the next flavor. It's just kind of, that's the bad thing about media and how they function. But you go to Russia illegally. You cross the Russian border illegally. I think that's like a minimum 2 years labor camp. And, that's like, no. You cross into North Korea illegally. If they don't shoot you first, that's like a 15-year prison labor camp, 15-year sentence in a labor camp. So every country out there, has a form of has a set of laws regarding entering their country. The only really poorest countries I know of, again, I can cross into probably back and forth out of Afghanistan, Somalia. I mean, there's places I could probably, the borders are porous. They're porous borders. The Mexico-Texas border, yeah, I could. There's parts of this wild west, in New Mexico and Arizona and West Texas that, yeah, I can crisscross as will, and there's nothing out there really stopping me for the most part. There's some places we have a big canyon. There's some places there's a fence, like a wall, and there's some places that a small wall, and it's it's not too hard to jump borders. The Canadian border is even more porous than that. There's a 300-yard cut through the forest land of America, between America and Canada. That's the border, and easily you can just walk back and forth across it, and it's not a, and that's kind of thing. I mean, that's where also I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to borders. I understand on our modern world we have borders, sovereign nations, sovereign countries, republics, whatever, and that is a modern world, and you're unless you build a time machine, you're not going to change that. You can talk about stolen land all day long. You're not going to change history. But also at the same time, it is kind of ridiculous that when you see a globe without the countries named, you're like, wow. I mean, mountain ranges don't care about borders, rivers don't care about borders, and it's one of those things where, they have an imaginary line and say, this is mine, this is yours, don't cross. And yeah, it just kind of, it's a weird, to me, it's always felt weird to have, these imaginary lines and their borders. But at the same time, I do understand, modern day world, because as many people on the Facebook and TikTok say, America's a racist country and this is a horrible place. Those who have the best, it's a horrible place. Those from south of the border and sometimes north border, there's more Canadians than you think that cross over here illegally. But there's those south of the border, man. This is the bee's knees. This is the freedom. This is economic prosperity. Those who are saying America is a rat place, a rat hole, and this and that, they're probably living in their parents' basement because they don't know how to think outside the box and make a living. They don't know how to make themselves prosperous. This is probably, really think about it, this is why I probably want to do when it comes to freedoms. Out of countries, this is probably one of the freest countries you're going to ever know. You can say what you want about the leaders without getting yourself shot. Go to Iran and try that. Not happening. Go to Palestine. Zero freedom in Palestine. If you're a female, forget that. No rights. You're pretty much property. That's how and not the entire Muslim world. There's a lot of secular Muslims that and they're out here just living and making living, and the wives or the women are just making living, they're prosperous. That's where when I look at the Ilhan Omar lady, she will talk a lot of dirt about America, and she's a senator, or she's a representative here in America. She will talk a lot of dirt, but I guarantee she will never on her own choose to leave America and go back where her family's from. Because freedom and prosperity taste good when you have such freedom where you can badmouth the government, badmouth the country, badmouth the people who give you that paycheck, and not worry about any kind of beheadings or any kind of craziness happening to you. Ain't no way you're gonna badmouth this place, and you're gonna sit back in your big old house and your money you're making, and you're gonna enjoy living in this horrible place as you talk bad about it. But yeah, I'm on the fence about ICE. I see why they're here. I know why they were formed. I kind of know why ICE is so heavy-handed right now in this current phase of deportations. But also, I know that ICE was used by the Bush administration, Obama administration, Biden administration. If Trump wasn't elected, I can promise you, the Harris administration, ICE will still be here. You know, they'll still be here. So, but yeah, this video's gone long enough. That's just my raw thoughts on ICE and immigration. And I think first we got to fix the system, fix the immigration system. I understand there's a line, but a 17-year line. I mean, 17 years, dang, that is that's a long time. A lot of stuff can happen to you in 17 years. You know, when you first start the immigration process, you can get married, you can have children, and when you get married or have children, that changes the ballgame again. That is more paperwork. That child, you're coming to America, but now that child has to have paperwork for you to bring the child to America. Spouse, same way. I get married. I've already started the immigration process. Hey, wife, you gonna come with me? That's a whole new set of paperwork, and if I remember right, that thing kicks that line back to the back of the line because you're now restarted the process over again. If I remember right, I could be right. That's how it used to be. It could be, again, it could be different now. So yeah, the immigration is broken. I mean, it's really just inefficient, and maybe worked great back in the 1940s and 50s and stuff, and mostly 50s and 60s when it was really when the immigration process kind of was reformed into what we have today. But yeah, it's just it's kind of crazy. But that's my feeling. That's my my thoughts on ICE and immigration and borders. And it's kind of I know it's kind of incoherent because this is just me rambling on. That's all I got. Stay safe. You know, if you want to protest, you got that freedom. Do it smart. Don't do it stupidly. Do it smart. Your voice has more power while you're alive. Don't get yourself killed, because I guarantee the next presidency, the next flavor in office, we're gonna forget your name, because there's 270 plus who have died, and we don't know. I don't know their names. Do you? So don't be a martyr. Don't be a martyr, because that's like TikTok. We're gonna look at it. Look at that. We're gonna scroll past and never come see you again. Hot Pizza Key.